So my experience has been, and all of you know that as we go up, pyramid is a narrow, and good number of people who reach at the top while they are successful, how many of them are happy is a question mark. And it all boils down to the kind of choices and decisions people make. And I see a lot of area for improvement in those choices and decisions people uh, take, and the way they make decisions, yeah, the way they take decisions and make choices. There's a lot of area of improvement. So today we have Ashish, who's going to take us through this very critical and important topic. So Ashish is a very close, dear friend and a professional whom I know over 20 years. He's an excellent human being first, and has done very well. Has worked with Asian Paints to begin with, then Mondelez for a very long time. Has done stints in India, outside India, and right now he's in Hong Kong, and he's following career of his wife now. Now he's taken a back seat, and his wife is taken the lead in his career now. And nowadays, dual careers is a very in thing, in the sense with more and more girls coming from B schools and otherwise. So dual career is one of the key things which also will be important thing for people to handle it. So Ashish is, as I said, is a veteran and a very good people's person. All people who have worked with him, we are all bosses to whom he has reported. I mean, everybody looks at him as a very good human being first. So Ashish, over to you. And I'm sure this session is going to be quite insightful for all of us. It's going to be a 90-minute total session. Uh, I think we'll keep the presentation to around 60-65 minutes. In between, if anybody wants to pitch in, we'll take inputs. Yeah, we'll be happy to hear. And last 15-20 minutes, we'll have a Q&A session. Ashish, thanks a lot for joining, and over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep. And, I just wanted to share that we have good quality control on this session because my former boss, Yirji Hail, is also on the call and he's watching what I'm going to say. So I'm under pressure now. Thank you, Yirji, for joining, and thanks for your support.
No worries. Good luck.
Thank you. All right.
Good morning, Ashish sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Ravi. Prem, how are you?
Premi, I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
How are you? After a
I'm
long
very
time.
well. I'm very well. I'm happy to share that some of the people who have worked with me are also on the call. I will not name everybody, but thank you so much for being here. Ravi, can I request you to share the presentation, please?
Yes, sir, sure.
So Ravi will navigate the presentation. And Ravi, in case there are any questions that need to be handled, do pause and let us know.
Yes, sir, sure.
All right. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to talk about careers and career pathways, and what it takes to achieve our goals, organizational goals, and other goals. So what is the reality check about careers? I think the first thing is that many of us have not put down in black and white what our goal is, right? We kind of have it in our head somewhere, but it's not down in black and white. The second, and even more important, what will truly fulfill me? What are my life goals? And that's also something that people often have, fairly fuzzy idea about, but it's not on paper. And finally, family priorities. So, I have my priority, which is my career, and my family, but what are their priorities, and how can we make sure that there is harmony and not friction, right? As multiple family members manage their respective careers. The other thing is that the leadership funnel can get quite narrow, right? So we start at the uh, at the widest part of the funnel when we join, and then we move into a middle management role where it's a bit steeper. And finally, as we get into senior roles, the pyramid gets very, very steep. And therefore, if we don't have clarity, then the risk is that our careers can kind of drift, and then we might have some regrets later, right? Yeah. So moving on. Ravi, can we move to the next slide, please?
We have next slide.
Yeah. So, so if you look at, you can't really build, a career without having a foundation, right? And the foundation for success, and all of you know this, it really rests a lot on personal well-being. We cannot be conflicted and frustrated inside and hope to do well, right? And therefore, how we come across is really a mirror of our physical health. Are we able to stick it out through good times and tough times? What is our mental health? Do we have the resilience and the clarity? And what is our emotional health? So how we engage with others and how good our relationships are. And that is really the foundation of the edifice that we want to build. The other thing that all of us know is that, in this era of continuous change and evolution of the way businesses progress, continuous learning and unlearning is absolutely essential to keep ourselves relevant, right? Otherwise, suddenly you find that the skills required in the job descriptions that we see, we don't have some of those skills. And so it's important to keep pace with the world. And therefore, you can have a great career strategy, but if we don't have this foundation, then even the best strategies can collapse. Now, I think, therefore, where a good starting point is that we need to have a career strategy, right? That is our roadmap, and that prevents, decisions happening where it's not our choice, right? So we try to stay a bit ahead of events and make sure that we are more or less aligned to our strategy. And having this strategy, preferably in pen and paper, it forces us to be clear about our ambition. What is it that we want to be? Do we want to be a specialist, a generalist? What are our financial goals, right? What are our wealth creation objectives for ourselves and our families? And what is our definition of success? Is it just climbing the ladder blindly, or is our success multidimensional? And there are other aspects that will define how successful we feel that we are, right? I think the other thing which is interesting is, a lot of us, when we start off, believe that, hey, if I'm good at my job, that's enough. People will see me, observe me, and they will promote me, and things will happen on their own. But what we will discuss today is that it's not just about being good at your work. It is also, we have a key role to play in terms of what are the career bets that we make, and how do we build our leadership equity within the organization, right? Or our leadership capital. So we have a more than equal role to play as the organization in stewarding our career. And the transparent truth is that if you don't plan your career, then other people will plan your career for you, right? And then you may end up with something that maybe is not necessarily what you wanted. And therefore, make sure, I think, first that you have a stake, and also that you have agency to guide your career in the right direction and in a way that is in consonance with your own goals and your own aims. Yeah. And therefore, when we're looking for which organization to join, right, we're really thinking about, what kind of sectors do I want to work? And what kind of sectors do I not want to work in, right? And you have cases where people say, I would not like to work in XYZ sector for whatever reason. And once you kind of clear on the sector or sectors that you're comfortable and which you think suit you, then you're talking about target companies. and all of us, seek out companies that are congruent with our own kind of aspirations and values. We think about functions which are going to welcome our skill sets and our competencies. And then we all have milestones, right? We see others in their careers, and you say, okay, that's the role that I want to do if I want to grow in my future. So we do a kind of a definition of a target map. All of us do it subconsciously or consciously. And therefore, if we have all of these 4 elements, then that's very helpful. And you don't need to define these elements forever. It could be for the next 3 to 5 years is often good enough for us to progress. Yeah. And therefore, I think the key point here is, nobody owns your career and your growth more than you do. Remember that, right? It is top of mind for you. It may not be top of mind for the organization, because the organization is managing hundreds and thousands of careers, right? So you're one among many. And so don't outsource your career to your line manager or to HR. The second, take steps to own your own growth, and therefore have agency, volunteer for challenging roles. I'm sure all of you have heard that growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone, right? So you need to stretch and test yourself in unfamiliar situations and circumstances. So volunteer for challenging roles, pursue opportunities to build skills, right? Either through roles, through courses or certifications, by getting yourself a mentor, right? There are many ways in which you can do this. And finally, make sure that you're visible. It's not the organization's responsibility to look at, oh, what did you do last week? What was the result, right? Sometimes if you've done something which helps the organization, then you have to play a role to make sure that it is shared, not just because you want to blow your trumpet, but for organizational learning, because something that you do that works or doesn't work can help other people to do better, right? Either by doing what you did or by avoiding doing something if it was a mistake. Yeah. So be visible. And therefore, don't think that just good performance is enough. I think it's very important to make sure that that performance is seen, and you're able to put yourself out there and be ready to be judged and to learn, of course, from the feedback that comes. And therefore, we come up to this slide, which is about T-shaped capability. And many of you would have been familiar with this concept, first enunciated by Tim Brown and McKinsey. You have to think of capability as a T-shaped model, and you will see that the T has a vertical bar, which is about the depth of your learning and skills. So this is deep expertise in one domain or maybe 2 domains, right? And this could be a function or a particular area within a function. And then you have the breadth or the top bar, which is about broader organizational understanding of adjacent and other functions, right? And as you grow higher and higher, you start off with the vertical part of the T, and then eventually, as we will cover shortly, you need to then build breadth and have broad understanding of what it takes to truly be a leader of a big organization. And as you rise to the top, be a specialist, be good at your core function, but also hold the capability to think like a generalist or for the good of the whole organization. Yeah. A quick word on the power of cross-functional experience. I think within the function is our comfort zone, and a lot of us try to grow vertically, right? So I want to start as an individual contributor, then I want to be, a supervisor, then I want to be a manager, then I want to be, a manager of managers. So there is vertical growth, but cross-functional experience, it may feel like, you're going in a different direction, you're not sticking to your strength, but that is very, very important, because a cross-functional project can be a very big career accelerator, right? What that tells the organization, if you're willing to move to a cross-functional project or a role, is that you have holistic business understanding, that you're versatile, you're ready for more senior roles, and you're willing to put yourself out there and be visible across departments so that everybody, all the key stakeholders, who kind of have a voice on the table when people's careers are discussed. All of them have a point of view about you. Yeah. And therefore, it is very, very important to have cross-functional experience rather than always seeking roles that just try to grow vertically. And a good example can be that you're a finance leader, you've been in finance for a long time, but now you volunteer to work on a marketing analytics project, right? With the insights analytics team and the marketing guys. And you say, hey, I will help you in this project by showing how the commercial analytics will translate to the company top line and bottom line, right? And your ability and your willingness to volunteer for this kind of a role is a stretch assignment, which helps people to understand that, yes, your capability is not just in finance, but you're capable of doing much more. And this is very important. So just to make things a little concrete, right, so that we are not just talking in the air, a typical initial position is like an early career where you're an individual contributor trying to become a manager, right? And there clearly is the vertical part of the T-shaped capability. So you're talking about depth. You're trying to become exceptionally good at your core function and eventually to become the go-to expert. So if anyone has a question or a challenge for that function, they should come to you because you're the one who knows how things work in that function. So that's probably the first step as an individual contributor. And why do we need to have that depth? Because how do you build credibility, right? How do you show that you have some value to bring to the table, to your own function and to other functions? Is by showing your credibility and your problem-solving strength in your domain. So that is always the first step. And therefore, it creates the foundation, like we discussed, for trust. Because if you're good at your function, then it builds trust in you as a professional, right? And maybe proves that you're capable of executional excellence within your core function. And that's very important. So, I've just said that a CTO or chief technology officer who has never coded may not automatically gain the respect of his team, right? So he will have to show that he empathizes and understands the people working for him before he can earn their respect. Otherwise, people will say, oh, he's an outsider. He doesn't really understand what I do. And that's always, a bit of a barrier to building bridges and connections within your function. And therefore, from our side, as employees, we should always be ready after we build our core functional capability. We should always be ready to take on stretch or futuristic projects. So, if you're in sales, right, then maybe we want to, after building experience in core sales, maybe we want to think about, other kinds of sales, institutional sales, maybe, or we want to do e-commerce, right, or we want to do modern retail. So these are all stretch projects, futuristic projects, which push your expertise and make you a well-rounded professional in your function, right? And what this also helps in is in making your vision for that function bigger, right? Because if you don't have a vision, then you will not know where you want to take your function. And therefore, it hones your vision and your picture of excellence, right? You have a better and better picture of excellence. And if you don't do this during your initial years, then you may not have time to do this later, because then you will move on to other roles, other functions, and then you will be too embarrassed to come back and learn your core function, right? So it's important to do this at the right time. Also, there are opportunities to get certified. So a lot of people today are trying to get certified in artificial intelligence. Finance professionals want to do a CPA, right? Or maybe you want to work on the Amazon web server or Azure if you're in technology, etc. So these certifications can also help to build your CV and to show people that you are a continuous learner and that you are capable of doing more. Yeah. The next step probably is a mid-career where you're already a manager and now you're aspiring to grow further to become, a general manager or a director or a VP of the function. And this is where there's a very big pivot, and a lot of people struggle to deal with this transition, right? And this is where the depth now you need to pivot to breadth. And this involves understanding key performance indicators of other functions, how decisions are made in other functions, what are their priorities and strategic objectives, and therefore broaden your understanding of how decisions are made by the organization. Right? And why do we need this? Because it brings versatility. It enables leadership across multiple domains of the business. It helps you to understand interdependencies of one function with others, right? And driving organizational objectives beyond individual objectives, right? So very important. If you're a supply chain professional, you would like to make 1,000 widgets in one production run, but that is what we call a local optimum. You want 1,000 units to be produced at one go because that is, financially best for you as a function. But if sales cannot sell 1,000 widgets, they want only 500, right? Then you're trying to optimize supply chain, but you're not optimizing the whole company, because then finance will say, "Oh, my inventory is gone up," right? And I'm not happy. So what is best for your function may not be best for the organization. And therefore, I think some actions we can take to volunteer for cross-functional task forces on top of your day job. It will give you huge exposure and learning. Consider lateral moves in other functions, right? To broaden your expertise. Find a mentor in a different function and have chats with him or her, and you will gain a lot of perspective. And also, again, academic credentials if you want to pursue some executive, education or a degree. Focus on general management, then that can also help. Yeah. Moving forward, in your late career, right, when you're already a GM director and you're trying to move to a CXO, then breadth is king. It's all about breadth. Your functional expertise is secondary, and you are a leader of the enterprise. And therefore, people judge you by your business acumen, your strategic agility, and your leadership. And your value is really in understanding how all the functions kind of work together to create value and make decisions that are best for the organization as a whole. And here, typically, senior leaders will seek roles which have P&L responsibility. They will lead high-impact initiatives and high-impact businesses for the organization. They will take on transformation roles, restructuring roles, demonstrate that they're able to collaborate with peers, and build executive presence and manage stakeholders well. So these are all some of the actions that you need to take and demonstrate at this stage in your career. Yeah. So, I hope that kind of helps to make it a little more concrete in terms of what we're talking about. And moving on to the next slide. Yeah. So this is really the summary. I don't want to go over it again, but you start with deep expertise, cross-functional exposure, P&L leadership, and then transformational roles. Really, it's about first leading yourself, right? So you become really, really good. Then you learn to lead others. Then you lead systems, and finally you lead through change and transformation. So that's kind of how we grow in large organizations. Yeah. Yeah. And therefore, many of you here are quite senior and are probably doing or aspiring to do CXO roles. And you understand that future leaders don't think in silos, they think in systems. And therefore, mastering enterprise thinking, mastering people leadership at scale, mastering influence, very, very important. And finally, having the risk appetite and the velocity of decision making to propel the organization forward towards its bold ambitions. I think the other thing that has changed a lot in the last few years is that very often as you grow, you're leading not a homogeneous group of 20 years experienced people. You're often leading multi-generational teams. And each generation has their own aspirations, right? I've put some generalizations here of what Gen X wants, millennials want, Gen Z want, and this may not be a comprehensive list, but I think it's important to understand that you need different strokes for different folks, and that while we all have a management style or a style with which we engage with others, I think a little bit of agility and adjustment, depending on who the target audience is that you're talking to at that point in time, is very, very useful, right? And therefore, a successful leader clearly adapts, inspires, and finally balances drive for results with team well-being. And this is something that always we need to keep in our mind as we run at breakneck speed to achieve our goals. I think one of the unknowns in career growth is how much does the organization trust me? Because believe me, however good you are, if the organization doesn't trust you to be a leader, doesn't trust you to be a future steward of the company, then they're not really going to give you senior roles or critical roles, right? And if you look at some of you may have read The Trusted Advisor, but I'm just reproducing the trust equation here. How do you create trust? And trust is equal to C plus R plus I divided by S. So what this says is that your trustworthiness is directly proportional to your credibility, to your reliability, and to intimacy, and inversely proportional to your self-orientation or your personal agenda, right? So we need to be credible, we need to be reliable, we need to have the intimacy so that other people are comfortable with us. And finally, we need to always think about the organization and not about our agenda or self-orientation. And so this is really what is widely accepted as a good definition of trust equation. And this is something that if some of you have not seen it before, feel free to make a note of this, and you can Google it as well. Yeah. And without trust, there's really nothing, be it in an organization or be it in your personal life. Moving forward, your growth, therefore, is a combination of the trust the organization has on you, your performance and potential, and the perception of the organization about you and your performance and your potential, right? It's all of the three. And therefore, when you get feedback, either verbal feedback or non-verbal feedback, we should always be sensitive and be aware of what is that feedback, what is it telling you about how much you are trusted, how your performance and potential are viewed. And that perception is more important than the reality, because people make decisions based on their perception. And that's how organizations work. And therefore, it's very important to read the room, to understand the dynamics, build strong relationships with key influencers, share progress proactively rather than waiting for other people to figure out what you're up to, and to create an authentic personal brand. People know that your self-interest is not primarily driving you, but it's the organization goal. Yeah. Now, after a period of time in a given role, we need to ask for a new role, right? And I think one of the things that I have observed with a lot of young people is that they will do a particular function for maybe a year and a half, and then say, oh, I know the KPIs, I know maybe what is marketing, I understand, and now I want to move on to something new, right? So they think that doing something or having concrete experience is the end of the learning journey. But the reality is that the entire learning and delivery and teaching cycle needs to be complete. And that takes 2 to 3 years if you want to build the vertical part of your T-shaped capability. So be careful before you jump to change roles just because you're bored, because there's always so much more to learn, even within your own function. And like I mentioned, you may never get that opportunity in the future. So now is the time to do it. And people say that it's not enough to learn, but you have to execute and deliver what you know. And finally, you have to be able to teach it so that you have complete mastery over the subject. And that's the time when you start saying, okay, what's next for me? Yeah. How do you choose your next role? I think this is very important. Don't just take the next role because of scale, like, okay, today I'm managing 2 people. In the new role, I will manage 4 people. But before taking your next role, ask a few critical questions, right? Am I going to take bigger decisions and more kinds of decisions in the new role, right? Will this role increase my visibility to the executives? Will I be able to learn something new, a new function, a geography, a business model? So make sure that you're growing your skills and your capabilities when you take the new role. Otherwise, it's just more of the same thing, and could be a bit of waste of your time in terms of investing in your future. And therefore choose roles that will challenge you, challenge who you are, right? You know, roles that will help you build a story about yourself, your career story, and which recruiters would want to hear 5 years down the line. It should be a big milestone or a big jump, as seen by others as well. And this will also kind of signal that you're ready for enterprise leadership. So all of these things have to be checked before you say, okay, that's the next role for me. And when you're pitching for a new role, it can't just be about, oh, I want it, so I should get it, right? So be prepared to be challenged. Have clarity around what is the biggest gap between your current profile and the target role. So, do some research on what the target role needs, what skills, capabilities, right? And be aware of the gaps. There will always be a gap, right? When you make a jump, but be aware of those gaps and have a plan to address those gaps. And always frame it as a win-win to the organization to say that, look, this is what I've done, this is what I believe I can do, and this is how I plan to make the transition. So make sure that it's not just a Hail Mary, something that you're asking for and hope that it comes, but it's something that you want and that you're prepared, to take if you get it. Yeah. And of course, there are points in time when you may realize or decide that you don't have a career or growth within the existing organization. And that's when you need to make a decision to move externally. And therefore, before you make a move, it's a big thing. It's a big inflection. So have a long-term career strategy on, again, industry, company, culture, etc. Do a lot of due diligence and research, because as you grow, a mistake or a wrong move will hurt you more and more the more senior you get. And make sure that it's aligned to your target map. Right? If you do an impulsive move because you had a fight or somebody said something, then it will give you maybe short-term financial gain, but long-term, it may not take you where you want to go. And therefore, the career move is only because it is what you want, and not because you got triggered by something that somebody else said. So, we need that maturity to make sure that we do not move unless it is what is required and the right thing to do for our career. And therefore, do your homework. Talk to former and current employees of the new company. That's very important, very helpful. When you talk to current and past employees of a company, they really tell you how things work. Look at leadership quality, look at growth opportunities, etc. And sometimes we just get a good offer, we think it's good, and then we just jump. But take some time and do a bit of due diligence, because it's very, very important for you. A wrong move will hurt you. It may not hurt the organization as much as it will hurt you. And therefore, there is a life beyond the career. And so, as we kind of close out the presentation, I think it's really important to balance your career ambition, your family's financial security, and well-being of your family as well. And therefore, make sure that you reflect within yourself, but also have conversations not just in your company and organization, but with your spouse, with your children, with your parents. Make sure that you have aspirations in the whole wheel of life and not just on career. A lot of us in our initial years are single-minded in our focus, but at some point we do realize that there's a lot more to life than just your career. And if there is misalignment here, then sometimes we'll never be truly happy. Even if we do very well in the job, we will not be happy as people. And therefore, it's really important that we have the right balance on the wheel of life. Yeah? And so there's just a quick summary. I think the foundation is critical. You need to have a plan. You need to build a strong foundation. And then you need to own your career or co-own your career. And if you don't own it and plan it yourself, then someone else will do it for you. Yeah? And as you do all of this, make sure that your other stakeholders in your life are also benefiting and growing with you. Yeah. So to close, it's your career is not just a ladder. We all immediately think of a ladder, but it's not mindless climbing of the ladder. I think it's a journey. It's a life journey, an important part of the life journey, right? But at the end of the day, you have to co-own that journey consciously, and no one else is going to do it for you. Yeah. So I'll kind of close the formal part of the presentation there. And I think we should move to more of a conversation now, maybe after Sandeep ji kind of rounds this off. And then we'd love to take questions, comments from the audience. Sandeep, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashish, for the insightful discussion, presentation. Ravi, you can stop sharing the screen. So I think I'm talking, I'm sharing some of the insights based on my 25 years of executive search, and prior to that, I had 10 years of corporate life. Very few people, a fraction of people take ownership of their career, is what my experience is. So I think one of the most important and critical things is that each one of us should take uh, responsibility of our career. And good number of times, most of you are from good pedigrees and good backgrounds, and if you look at your batch mates, capability wise, there's hardly any difference. Most of the people have capability. I think it is all about how you plan, how you take decisions, how do you navigate in your organizations, and people who have clarity on what they want to achieve in life as a career. People with more granular clarity are likely to do very well. Most of us have this clarity that I want to do well. I want to earn a high salary. I want to grow as a CEO. But very few people try and put down thoughts to the extent of next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, what I'll do, and hence in next 20 years, how am I going to grow and how will I grow in life? So, so taking 100% ownership of your own career is extremely, extremely important. Unfortunately, as I said, most of the people are wanting to grow but don't have absolute clarity there. I have also seen most of the times, typically, people from functions like finance and uh, other support functions other than sales and marketing, very few of them really aspire to grow to CEOs and MDs. I personally feel if people from other functions also really have a plan and a strategy, they definitely can grow into CEOs, MDs, and other different roles. But I rarely see people aiming that. At best, they aim to become a CXO kind of thing. The kind of investment people do on themselves, because till the time middle management, most of the times growth happens relatively easy. But as you grow beyond middle management, developing yourself as a leader and having that approach of introspecting, reflecting, where am I as a leader, what should I do to acquire skills and strategy and approach for me to be considered as a potential leader, and to build that perception around, and really building all other skill sets beyond just a functional skill set. The kind of investment people make is almost minimal, and people who continuously learn, unlearn, and know where they have to go and bring in those learnings are the ones who are likely to do well. Mid management and above, it is not about being a functional expert. Yeah, having a business knowledge. Most of the times, it is managing stakeholders, and uh, people who manage the stakeholders. When you are at a CXO level, you are managing peers and influencing them. The moment you go to a business leader, your GM level position, you are managing shareholders, you are managing promoters, and 90% of the job, once you grow to that level, is managing that. Rest, you have to work towards building a team which can deliver the objectives. So I think the kind of importance people give to learn the skill to manage the stakeholders and influence the stakeholders is I think is very, very minimal. Good number of time people understand business, people understand macro environment, what is to be done, Most of the times people, when they are going at top and wanting to go at top, execution piece is actually influencing people, and influencing people is extremely important as you go to the corner offices. Another important thing is having a mentor. I mean, I've seen people who have a mentor and tend to get a perspective. They are able to understand from a lens. So having a mentor who is really good is extremely important. It is very important to build your network within the organization, not only in your function. Most of the times people tend to build relationship with your people who are in a function, but how do you build a relationship beyond your function? How do you take cross-functional projects? How do you build your perception within the organization? That is when you're in the organization. But when you also want to be seen as a person who is really can be an industry leader, how do you understand who are the relevant people outside your organization? Based on that plan and strategy, if you have target organizations and target roles, how do you understand who are the key people in different organizations, different roles? How do you build a very deep connect with those people? Can you have your own private board? And this networking and having your own private board plays a very important role, because you yourself working on your business plan and approach and strategy, but if you have 15, 20 people across different industries, yeah, across different organizations, if they can be your bouncing board, the kind of uh, insights you are able to bring to the table for the organization's success are at a very different level. So networking, building your own private board, having good mentors play an extremely, extremely important role. I have seen, and I've seen people who do that well are benefiting immensely. So that's another point. And in leadership growth, it is very, very important to be authentic, transparent, trustworthy. These are extremely important. And in tough situation, and nowadays environment is changing so fast, I have seen people not being very transparent and honest, and I've seen also that people who are very honest and transparent and have a continuous flow of communication, whether it is good news, bad news, people still get respect. It's not that you will not get respect if you are having a bad news. People, I also, another important area I'm telling you is, it is very important to talk about your failures and share learnings for organization, for peers, for seniors, juniors. Most of the times, whenever people try to talk about themselves, they talk about their successes. But it's extremely important to talk about your failures so that people can learn from your failures. And in a way, you're also trying to be very transparent, being humble, grounded. Those things are extremely, extremely important. When people are moving out of the organizations while they're making career choices, good number of time people make mistakes, and that is when you realize the mistake, one has to apply all the framework and lenses to ensure that the mistake doesn't happen. See, one of the reasons why we have uh, trying to build this program of high potential career planning is how can we enable people. And I see lot many people making mistakes when they are making career choices. They don't do enough homework. Cultural fitment, functional knowledge after 15, 20 years of experience each one of us is having. Cultural fitment is the most critical thing. What is the culture of the organization? What is the organization dynamics? Who is my reporting boss? Who are the key CXOs, yeah, CEO? Yeah, who are the shareholders? What is their value system? The kind of homework people do is very, very minimal. And it's not very difficult to do homework. One should actually have a proper framework. While organizations do ref check of individuals, very rarely individuals go in depth and do ref check of the organization where he or she is joining. And best thing is to have defined target organizations and target roles, rather than working for an executive search firm to call you and present an opportunity. Unfortunately, I'm telling you, middle management and above, I have seen 90% of the people, when they get a call from an executive search, most of the times they'll say yes. That also indicates the kind of clarity people have in their mind as to what organization they want to go, what organization they don't want to go. So these are just some of the areas which I thought I'll add some inputs from my side. I think we can now open for Q&A session. Happy to hear views. Yeah, if anybody would like to share any inputs and insights, that will be really good for benefit of all. Yatnesh, Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a question. First of all, very thank you. I think it's a very wonderful in the Saturday morning. You got it. This very good insights. I have a question to the Ashish. You had mentioned about the career goal and the life goal. For this goal setting, we go for a phasing also. And nowadays, the outside environment is so fast, so dynamic. So, how we can recalibrate how for this phasing of our goals with the outside environment? What is the way technique should be planned on this thing? Just for example, the new technologies are now making it. So sometimes people are saying if I have to be the CX role in the 40s, now it's getting further down. It should be the you have to be the somewhere in late 30s. You have to take care of the CX roles. Now people are saying the retirement is coming quite early. The 50s is the new retirement age. So how we can do the phasing for our goals?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think a lot, depends on the perspective that you hold. I think it's fair to say that in the beginning, security, right, financial security is very important, and so 90%, 95% of our brain is always thinking about better salary, better job, long term career, etc. But as you grow, you have to hold the whole wheel of life in your head, and you have to say, do I want my career at the expense of everything else and everybody else, or do I always want to keep that balance? And at some stage, all of us reach a stage where we say, oh, that the career is only 10-15%, and family and friends are everything. So it's a transition, it's a journey. I don't think it's one answer for everybody, but you're absolutely right, Yatnesh, that careers are growing shorter, and therefore now we have less time to we can't take a super long term view of our current role. We need to have an end in mind and have milestones for our career, and that's what we say when we say own your career, not just what you want to do, but also the milestones and the timelines. And as you see the environment changing, promoting younger and younger people to do jobs which are different as well, right, from what people earlier used to do, then you need to make sure that you keep pace. And we touched upon that conceptually. But today, you need to find ways to sharpen the saw, right? And so, yes, always, keep the wheel of life. I think Sandeep said something very important about having a coach or a mentor. And personally, the time when I really thought about things other than my career was when I was talking to well-wishers, coaches, mentors, because what they do is they open up your mind for you and they say, look, even if you get all of these things, how much are you willing to pay as a cost on the other parts of your life, right? And therefore, it's always a juggling and a balance that we need to maintain. And those timelines, those milestones are now getting accelerated. So earlier, maybe you had the luxury to just stick to your current role or function for a long time. Today you have to get to places in a slightly shorter period, but the fundamentals remain the same. Have a plan, have a strategy, have milestones, right? And then do what is required to make sure that you balance out your life and do well in your career as well as in other aspects of your life. I think does that work for you, Yatnesh? Because I don't
Mm.
want to give very
No, I got it. I
firm
got it.
timelines. Yeah, yeah.
Got
But
it.
you're right, and it's, I think, a great observation that the world is changing and nobody retires at 65, 70 anymore,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people plateau, even in their late 40s and early 50s, and that's the reality today. And so we have less time to become significant in our careers, right? It's not just
I
about doing a
yeah.
good job and hoping things will happen. More and more now we need to plan because the world is changing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ashish.
I would just like to add here, while careers, I mean, organizations want more and more younger people, and careers are getting shortened on one hand, and on the other hand, in country like India, life expectancy is going up, right? And I mean, today I also see a very fraction of few people who stay relevant beyond 60, 70, and 75, 80 also. Like, for example, in most of the cases, promoter-led organizations, for example, you must be seeing that promoters continue to be active till 80, 82, and 85. And And human mind, if you are really active and doing meaningful thing, one, you can create commercial value, and plus your health also remains, I mean, you stay also in a good shape. Your mental health, emotional well-being also stays in a good shape. So one of the most important things is for working professionals is going to be learning and unlearning, because the change is happening so fast. Because while age is there and age is a number, is what all of we say, but we'll have to really start practicing. Like the younger generation, what is that they are bringing to the table, the skill set, and how do we really stay relevant and hence learn and unlearn. Some of these things are going to be extremely critical. Another thing is, while your skill might not be relevant for an organization which you're working at maybe 50 or 55, but how do you really identify sectors and organizations where your skill will be valued at that age? And just to give an example, for example, if somebody is in sales or a particular function in a large organization, an MNC at around 50, 55, and after that, organizations then start looking at them differently. Now, for a large organization, I mean, the organization would like to have younger talent because there's a different energy and passion required. But there are so many organizations which are emerging, which are 50 crore, 100 crore, 200 crore, and 500 crores across length and breadth of the country. How do you identify right organizations? And those organizations will be more than happy to have you on board. So I think one has to work on both sides, how to stay relevant and also understand where is the place where my skill set, experience will be valued, and how can I stay relevant on the other side also. Just to add, Ashish.
Got it. I think, Sandeep, there's very good dimension you have given to all this. Thank you for this.
Yeah.
There's one question which I wanted to ask.
Yes, Sonali.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about AI as such. Will it help enable jobs in future in senior levels? That's one. And second person question was that basically for last 10 years, I've been in marketing head in various organizations. To move to a next level, is there any other particular skill set which is required?
What is your aspiration, Sonali? So from a marketing leader, do you aspire to, do cutting edge marketing, or do you aspire to move to a more generalist role?
I would look at the position at a director marketing or maybe at a CXO's level or a CEO in, in next 3, 4 or 5 years time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think doing that audit, of what your skill sets are and what the skill sets are required for the role that you aspire for. I think being realistic about that and putting it down in black and white is definitely the first step. And you're very experienced, Sonali, so I don't have to tell you. I think you know well what the organization thinks that you will bring to the table and what the organization feels are the gaps, right? And you're not married to one organization, obviously. So the world is your playground. And I
Yes.
think doing that audit and having, good quality feedback and being very factual about, yes, this is what I'm good at, but this is what I need in the role that I aspire for. And therefore, this is where I need to push the envelope and build skills or demonstrate skills. I think is clearly an exercise that is going to be very helpful. I want to share maybe it'll resonate with you, Sonali, but I was in sales, right? So I started off in Asian Paints as a depot executive. So I started from the warehouse, shipping out goods, and then moved through various sales roles. And I remember about 7, 8 years into my career, I asked for a marketing role, a brand manager role opened up, but I was not considered because I didn't have experience. They had another candidate who had good marketing experience already. And so that role, the organization declined for me. So I continued building up, and became a sales director and threw my hat in the ring to become a general manager, which was really what I wanted to be, an MD. And because the organization believed in my potential, right? Even at a very, very late stage in my career, after I had been sales director for a long time, right? Someone from the organization had a chat with me and said, Ashish, we want to move you to marketing. We want you to be a category director because we think it's a key stepping stone to decide whether or not you will make it to MD, right? And that happened very, very late. Not what I would have liked, but it did happen. So I think if that credibility and trust and confidence is there, Sonali, then if as long as you pitch and you show your intent and you show realism and willingness to work on yourself and seek the right support from the organization, then I think things are likely to work out. So, for example, you can have a soft landing in another function. If you feel that you're too much, in the marketing box, you want to broaden, then I think you can ask for roles. Even you can do roles which are side hustles, on top of your full day job. Uh, it could be a task force, it could be an organizational initiative, which gives you an opportunity to demonstrate your potential to be a well-rounded leader. Alternatively, like you said, AI, what are the applications of AI, both, generative, but also a lot of agentic AI these days, a lot of use cases, right? If you're reading and keeping yourself abreast, and a lot of great practices that you can bring to your organization if you work on yourself, train yourself well, and sometimes you go outside to get expertise, right? Pay yourself for some courses which will really help you. But yeah, I think you have to show intent, you have to show willingness, you have to show action from your side, and the willingness to be, to be visible and to be judged by others. And I think that is kind of what I would like to say. I don't know, Sandeep, if you would like to.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Sonali, just to ask, give you a view on your first question, AI and how it will impact that part. So AI, obviously, technology disruptions are here to stay and they'll only get accelerated. So whatever level a professional is, it's extremely important to embrace how technology can be integrated in the roles which you want to do in future. And it's extremely important for people to learn and that's investment has to be coming. If it's not coming from organization side, individual has to make that investment. Good number of times I have seen professionals expect organizations to invest on their development, which is I think now the way that things are changing, it's extremely important that professionals start looking at investing on themselves. In this case, for example, acquiring skill set on AI. So how do you really acquire that skill, even if there's a paid program and things like that? One should definitely do it because that is going to stay, and these kind of disruptions are only going to get accelerated. So that you don't retire at 40, 50. If you're unlearning and relearning, you still stay relevant to the Gen Z population at that level. So it's extremely important. And having clarity in your mind as to what you want to do and being very honest to yourself, taking feedbacks, understanding micro environment, these things will play very, very important role. Just to add to what Ashish said.
Yeah, thank you. That was very insightful. And yes, so AI will help. Only challenges is in terms of the current organizations or the organizations which want to get into more of a technology space do take time to develop programs, but maybe doing skill sets and understanding and an audit, as Ashish mentioned, will help. So, yeah, and I do agree, Sandeep, on your also terms that when you were saying initially that a lot of, lot of people are actually looking at younger manpower rather than the older ones, but maybe edge, a technological edge and a futuristic approach and a cultural fit can maybe help in terms of developing and looking forward. And I buy Ashish's point also in looking at landing into other kind of roles which will help to, look at another growth path.
And I
Thank you.
think,
Thank you.
Sonali, there's a huge appetite, I can tell you, in a lot of organizations which are not tech based, for knowledge about AI and someone who can help structure their future AI agenda. But also these business leaders also want to see the value, right? So I think maybe there's also an opportunity if someone is very familiar with generative AI use cases, for you to raise your hand and say, look, I would like to lead this project, right? And then, if your organization recognizes you, then it's great. But otherwise, I think today there is always a market outside. If you can kick off a non-tech organizations AI journey. So I think if you're willing to invest and build up those skills, I can tell you, for example, I take a lot of input from my daughter, who's much more well versed on AI than I am, because she's actually using AI in her role. And so you're right. But I think the difference is not just age, it's about learning agility. And I think if you have the learning agility and the willingness to invest in developing yourself, then I think the organization will recognize it if they are right thinking. So yeah, maybe that is also a very, very plausible idea for the next kind of role or step that you might want to take if AI is of great interest to you.
Yeah, yeah. AI is of great interest, but yes, as you said, learning from the younger ones help, and maybe it will be the future. But looking at it, I would look at something as somewhere as a strategist on AI. Is it a possibility in your future?
Not as a full-time role, maybe, Sonali. I think you know what I'm saying. Typically, these stretch assignments, we need to, for a while, show the proof of the pudding, right? So we need to kind of show that there is juice there, that there is value creation, and that organizational capability exists to take on something like AI, which requires quite a bit of investment. So if you have the right thinking, progressive organization, then yes, maybe it'll happen. If not, then if you still want to pursue AI, then maybe you explore what organization will be more receptive. But definitely, I think a lot of people and a lot of organizations today are thirsty to have leaders who can lead, especially non-tech organizations, the whole organization foray into AI. And it may start small, but as long as the person leading it is able to show value, right? And there are a lot of cases, right, Sonali, of certainly I've worked a lot in sales, and I know in sales, AI and machine learning today can help you book, orders in palm stores by forecasting demand. There are so many use cases. So, sometimes we think of AI as something, exotic, but actually AI use cases are available which solve real world problems, right? And I remember in FMCG companies a few years back, a lot of companies used to struggle just to automate sales, right? But today everybody has to do it, otherwise
True,
you're
true.
not there, right? So today I agree with you that it's not maybe a full-time role to begin with. Nobody's going to put money to have like an AI god steering the company full-time. But if you show, if you, for example, stretch, and then you're able to show the organization use cases within the organization, even starting small and then scaling it up. And, finally, the organization, of course, has to see the value and they have to be progressive. Otherwise, it may not work out at all. But like I said, there will always be companies, I think, even today and in the near future, who are thirsty for this knowledge on how to do it. Most of the senior, older leaders don't do it because they don't know how. That's the reality. They would like to do it. It sounds great when you talk to shareholders to say we are embarking on AI, but you need real use cases that work. And that's where we don't want to be a strategist, only a strategist, because the promoter or the owner is going to ask for results as well, even if they're simple projects, and you start small and you scale up.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was very insightful.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I would like to just make a point here. See, ultimately, what defines what you do with your life is attitude, your attitude. And one initiative which we have started, I'll tell you, which we will request you to support in whatever way, is we have identified girls from poor villages in Bihar, and they are 18, 21, 22, and we are saying how can we really help them to build their careers and compete with the best B school candidates. So that is an initiative which we have started, and we have started coaching and mentoring, because of what I have seen in last 25 years is ultimately what makes difference is attitude. And I believe these girls, they are 215 number, they have right attitude. What they need is right input at right time. And what we are looking at is women professionals who can spend maybe half an hour with one girl every week. So any one of you know anybody who would be passionate about this, I'll be really will be really extremely happy to share some references. So I just wanted to mention that. Uh, yeah, Jiri, you have raised the hand. Please go ahead.
You're on mute, EG. Are you?
No, I'm sorry. I think Pranay was the first one.
Okay. Yeah. Pranay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually have two questions. One is like one of the problems which was like highlighted in like previous questions was like, let's suppose there is an RSM who's working in an organization who has got 8 years of experience or like 7 years of experience in an RSM role or so on. And then there is somebody who was like a senior ASM who just got promoted into an RSM role and like having 2 to 3 years of experience. Now what happens is the designation looks similar, but because of the experience and all, the compensation of somebody who's having lesser experience is normally less. Now, what happens is like more and more as the organizations are growing younger, uh, there is a more inclination of like giving larger responsibility to people with less experience. One is, of course, the mentioned cases like they are more agile, out of the box thinking and all that. But a very strong factor over there is also the compensation. So, in such a scenario, how can somebody with more years of experience under their belt can showcase their value versus somebody who is younger in a say a similar role, maybe in the same organization or in a different organization, is what I want to ask. Because as the organizations are growing younger, there is a like there are like two kind of people in the same role. One is like having large number of years of experience, one is having lesser number of years experience, and assuming that they have similar kind of pedigree. Not saying that one is from a B school and other is like risen from ranks and all, assuming that they both come from pedigree, still they have like different years of experience. And how to like being a senior leader, how to showcase your value to the ecosystem. That is one. And the second question is, normally it is seen that once you move into, say, a smaller organization, say from a 10,000 crore organization to a 1,000 crore organization, or from 1,000 crore organization to, say, 600, 700 crore organization, it is difficult to move back from a smaller organization to larger organization. So what kind of, I mean, how can you position yourself to move from a smaller organization to any kind of organization, not just the larger, but any kind of organization which is like similar scale, larger scale and all. So these are my two questions, more in terms of how to position oneself to one, showcase their higher value or experience which they brings to the table versus the relatively younger counterparts. And second, how to position it within the ecosystem job market to make sure that they are flexible to move irrespective of the revenues and all the companies generating.
Yeah, thanks, Pranav. Pranav, I can tell you that like I've hired RSMs and I like to see the track record just for credibility, right? But for me, I'm more interested in what are you going to do if I give you that role. I'm less interested in your past. So you may have 3 years or 5 years of experience. You're right. I won't prefer the 3-year person just for lower compensation. That's the last priority, to save money. I'm more interested in creating more value. If I create more value, then the cost a little bit here and there doesn't really matter. So for me, if I put myself in a recruiter's shoes, I'm looking at, okay, if this person has more experience, is he going to be learning agile and is he going to add more value, right? So I think we need to be able to then articulate, because I'm assuming that with more experience, you've had more different experiences, taken different kinds of decisions, which maybe a less experienced person has not. And therefore, you need to think about those big things that maybe you've done different kinds of skills and competencies that you have demonstrated, right? And all that goes to build your credibility. And as long as you're not stuck in old ways, and as long as you also show that you're willing to learn and create value, right? If you have the drive and the fire in the belly, then I think no recruiter will just, let's say, not consider you just because they have to pay you more. That's very rare. There are budgets, of course, for the role, as HR professionals will tell you. But I've never seen a case where a great candidate comes and is rejected purely on budget. There's always a larger discussion on what value that person will kind of bring to the table. So I think it's up to the person who has 5 years experience to actually lay out what are the things he or she can do, which maybe the other person has not yet been exposed to or had an opportunity to demonstrate. So I think that is one. The second thing is,
Right.
Pranav. The second part is, I think, moving from a small, large organization, I think it's more to do with culture. If you are in a 1,000 crore organization, let's say with an MNC culture, right? And then if someone who's in a 300 crore organization, but from also an MNC culture, who has the similar systems, processes, ways of working, similar understanding of how things work, then for me, it's not probably a big barrier. But if the culture that you're coming from, maybe a promoter-led organization to an MNC, for example, and also a bigger company, then yes, I think HR and the hiring manager will try to assess whether you will sink or swim if you come back to a larger organization. So I don't think, as a hiring manager, you're always looking for talent. You're not screening out people unless you think that that screener is really critical to weed out people who may not fit at all, right? So I think, as long as you're joining organizations with similar culture, similar work ethic, similar values, right? Then maybe from a smaller organization to a larger organization, especially if you're willing to do a similar role as you've already done, but on a larger scale, for me, I think it's definitely not unthinkable. Yeah, I don't know if I was able
मी
to
इकडेच आहे तर वेबिनार चालू आहे, म्हणजे माझं
answer,
काम
but
करतोय पण ते वेबिनार चालू आहे.
let me
I'm
know,
just online
Pranay,
present.
if
I'm working
that
from
was
my.
able
I
to.
think
I'm good.
Mhm.
no, I think that makes sense. I think the next question is something like how to showcase your value. But yeah, I understand where you are coming from, and I think this is really helpful. Thanks.
And Pranav, how I was able to, for example, articulate what I can do better than someone 5 years younger than me is big thanks to the help of my coaches and mentors. Huh? I mean, they are unbelievable because they'll ask you stuff like, okay, tell me the last time when you were happy, right? What did you do that made
Right.
the organization pat you on your back? You start thinking about these really important things in your life. And then you start putting pen to paper, and then you start crafting your CV or your pitch. And it really helps to have a bouncing board. I think Sandeep also touched upon it. Don't depend only on yourself, but when you have this conversation with a mentor, things become much quicker and much easier. I can assure you from personal experience.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. This is like really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Pranay. Yirji, you wanted to go?
Yeah, no. So thank you, Ashish. So as you mentioned, we know each other more than 15 years. So I like what you were presenting. Just a couple of comments from my side and one question at the end. I think Ashish did a good framework for everyone. The one I like and I always use is the one which you mentioned. It's like a pyramid. The base is the physical, above is the mental, emotional, spiritual. It's so important. And maybe you remember we went through some trainings across Asia, and then I bring the culture part. The Westerners are usually very good on the physical part, but they messed up on the spiritual. And people from the subcontinent, from India, have the other way around. So it's really very important to build the physical part. So I like that framework. And I want to add two things to your second framework, which is really good. The success equal trust, performance, and perception. I just want to remind everyone the aspect of time. it's a never ending. You build your trust with your company, everything change in one day. Acquisition, marriage, people move around. You have to do it as a never ending thing. Don't think that it's done. It's never done. And like personal experience, don't underestimate the perception. Bigger the organization is, more important it is than performance. Right. And one thing nobody touched would be the culture differences. So just my background, I'm 20 plus years in Asia. I live everywhere, China, Southeast Asia, many countries. But keep in mind, because once you grow in your organization, you become more international. Building these three things, performance, trust, and perception, may be slightly different for Chinese leaders than for Indian leaders or in Southeast Asia or Filipino or Indonesians. So keep that in mind. It's very important, right? Because there's no one framework for it. You need to adjust as you move. Yeah. And then personally, I think somebody mentioned, if you are in FMCG and you want to be CEO, go through the marketing experience, as Ashish mentioned it. I didn't do it, I made it, but I was lucky. So go through the marketing piece. It's very important in your career if you are in FMCG. It's not so important in other careers, right? And I think Sandeep mentioned the mentor part, and Ashish, you as well. I would add one more thing, sponsor. If you are in a big organization, have your sponsors. It can be your ex-boss who moved to US, you keep in touch. It can be somebody you met in the project, senior, keep in touch. You need these people. It's not only mentor, you need the sponsors in the big organization. They will support you in your career. And I think one more thing before my question is, and it's linked to timing, be a bit of selfish as well. You get an opportunity to be promoted. Is it the right time? Are you stepping to black hole? Yes, I want to be marketing director, but they want to give me something which is very difficult to turn around. So this can happen to you as well. Okay, that's just my sharing, because I like the framework Ashish presented. Question I have, and it's not easy, Ashish. So you talk the success is trust, performance, and perception. Where is the political savviness in this structure? How to navigate politics in the big organization to succeed?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, Yirji. Maybe you should answer it.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I failed.
Yeah, no, I think thanks, Yirji. I think you're right. We did not touch upon, I think, certain aspects of leadership competencies, and definitely political agility is the reality as well. The only thing is sometimes, whenever we don't do well, we always blame it on politics. That's not always true. Yeah. So making sure that you have, a management brand or a personal brand is very important, and communicating is very important. Making sure that all the key stakeholders' point of view is aligned with what you want the organization to say about you is very important. And Yirji made a great point. Today, you may feel trusted because certain people are there at the top, but when they move, you have to start from zero again. So it's a never-ending process. Thanks, Yirji, for bringing that up. I think on networking, yes, we did not cover it today. I think it's maybe a subject in itself, Sandeep, that we can think about. But I think there's a lot of networking which sometimes is a waste of time. But actual productive networks, for me at least, right? And I may be wrong. I'm sure there are people who do very good networking at scale. But for me, there are probably a handful of people with whom I've needed to stay in touch, and they've really helped me to grow in my career, right? And identifying who those sponsors are and who those well-wishers and cheerleaders are is absolutely fundamental. It's a big topic, networking, but a lot of people think of networking as, I have so many thousand LinkedIn connections, but you don't talk to any of them ever in your life. And I think redefining a network is only useful if it is useful, and if you know those people, and if they know you, and if you can speak for each other. Otherwise, the network is just a number and it is completely useless. I think it's a great topic in itself, and thanks for bringing it up, Yirji. But yes, it was not covered today. I think leadership overall is a big topic, and we try to take up a small chunk of it and do it well. But yes, I think all of the things that EG mentioned are going to play a role at some point. But I think again, the authenticity is very important. Don't try to, I would say, manage the politics or the perception, right? Try to be true to yourself, and make sure that that truth is what is seen to senior leaders. If you're able to do that, and that's not easy to do, right? Then you should be okay. But yes, you need to also communicate a little bit about who you are, and as people change, I think, like EG mentioned, you have to start from zero again and again and again. It's a never-ending journey of self-exploration and then sharing who you are and what your personal brand is to the rest of the organization. But yeah, thanks, EG.
Just to add, Ashish, to the organization dynamics, and one can say organization dynamics, like Jiri absolutely put it as organization politics. Now that's a fact of life, right? Even in your family, your two kids will behave differently, right? I mean, so that's if one has to really last after reaching the top, learning the game is also extremely important, and one cannot avoid it. That's a fact of life, right? So it's organization is group of individuals, and knowing the dynamics or politics or knowing the power centers is extremely important. And without that, to last long is almost impossible. And in changing dynamic world, it is becoming more and more important. And as the other part of the networking, as Ashish rightly said, having so many LinkedIn connections doesn't help. But can you have your own private board of 10-15 people who are really whom you know very well? They know you. Some of them can be your spokesperson. Some of, I mean, I have seen for growth for people outside the organization and within the organization also. Having these sponsors, yeah, having these people whom we really know can play immensely important role. And if you have built good relationship, if you have invested on that, there are doors which open for you outside the organization also. And that plays a very important role within the organization and outside the organization also. But having that few people whom we know very well, maybe 10-15, yeah, not more than 15 ideally, who can be your sponsors within the organization, outside the organization also. And choosing those right people, understanding who are the right people to be your sponsors, your mentors is also extremely important. Just to add to that. We have time another 2-3 minutes for one more question if it is. We are almost close to our time deadline. So anyone, any question, any comment any would like to make? Sunit, please go ahead. Sunit, are you on mute? We are not able to hear you.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Sunny.
My question is related to basically insecurity in your bosses, or for that matter, your superiors. Sometimes we find that when you are, in your opinion, you are knowledgeable enough, and you think, and your boss thinks that he is more knowledgeable than you. Sometimes it happens. Then what should be the course of action in that case? And they feel insecure in that case. So that happened to me in the past, and that I have to pay the price for that. So what should be the course of action in that case? Because in my opinion, I myself feel that my subordinates should be more knowledgeable than me. Then only I will be at the top. Why? Because I have 25 skills or 26 skills. 2-3 skills more I will get from them, and then I will be able to command a leadership position in my organization.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sunny. For me, I think so. So there are two things here, right, Sunit? One is, should you go behind the back of your boss and tell the senior people, hey, I can do this better than him, right? So one of the golden rules in corporate is always make your boss look good, right? Whatever you're doing, don't be hungry to take credit. Some bosses will give you credit, some will not. But if you are in conflict with your boss, then life can become very difficult. And therefore, I think rule number one is make your boss look good and make sure that he thinks that you want him to succeed. If he suspects that you want him to fail, then he's going to become a barrier. So why create an obstacle or a barrier unnecessarily? Then the second question you will say is, okay, if I always give my boss credit, then how will the organization know how good I am? And for that, I think it's really important, like we touched upon, Sunit, to be a part of forums where the organization leaders are able to experience you firsthand, right? Be it cross-functional projects, be it any high-impact initiative where you are leading or presenting. That is always an opportunity for you to, without bragging, to show what thinking and what actions you are capable of. So in general, that's what I would say. Don't make your boss a barrier or an enemy. Don't make him insecure. At least don't add to it. Maybe he's by habit insecure, but don't add to his insecurity. Always speak well of him. Always thank him for his contributions, because in some way, right, he is enabling you in whatever you do. But at the same time, don't depend only on your boss to project you for senior roles. So do it in a non-threatening way, in big forums, in a sensible way, right? But don't make enemies, because you never know. He may outlast you, and like you said, you may pay the price, right? So it requires tactful handling, but also at the same time, don't depend completely on your